The first thing you should know about my friend Mrs. Filholm is that she's a do-gooder. Mrs. Filholm has a very acute sense of unfairness, and she's quick to take up a cause. Sometimes it's the Me Too movement, sometimes it's immigration or gay rights, or maybe it's the plight of the janitor who has to clean up whatever mess is being made right this second. Mrs. Filholm has a big heart, and it overflows with concern for the oppressed. The next thing you should know is that this isn't new. It's not something she grew into. In fact, Mrs. Filholm often reminisces about her fascination with Russia in the 80s. To her, the cruelty of communism was just as familiar and personal as her desire to perform. Of course, at that time, it seemed like the best way of uplifting the downtrodden would be to send them care packages of Levi's blue jeans.
The first thing you should know about my friend Andrew is that I don't like to disappoint him. I hold his opinion in high regard and trust he wants the best for me. As you may have heard, I turn to him for advice and cheerleading for all important life decisions. He's been a major force in me surviving my divorce, buying a house, and setting off on the next leg of my journey. The next thing you should know about Andrew is that he's a data scientist. He respects research and statistics. Research shows that in the first full year and maybe even longer after a divorce, I'm likely to be grieving, in low productivity mode, and slightly out of my mind. I worry it will disappoint Andrew, not to mention our listeners, that I'm not bouncing back faster. I'm still a bit of a mess. But maybe it will help to remember it's because of science.
Welcome to Half My Age, a weekly show in which a 25-year-old adult and a 50-year-old child help each other make sense of the world. That's right. That's right. I didn't mean to talk about this on the show today, but I think it's appropriate.
Here we go.
So I had 2 job interviews today. One of the downsides of freelancing is that whenever a project ends, you're suddenly unemployed again. And projects end all the time. And maybe it's a 2-week thing, maybe it's a 6-month thing. But it seems like as a freelancer, I'm going to get a lot more interviewing than I would as a job holder.
Yeah, no kidding. And actual live interviewing. You were actually talking on the phone in an interview.
I had one live in-person interview and I had one over-the-phone interview. And today I had at my live interview, I was talking to a bunch of non-technical people about technical stuff. And the lady asked me, she said, "What is a data scientist?" And that kind of caught me off guard because I work in the tech field where everybody knows exactly what that is.
Do they? Or do they have a general idea of what that is? Andrew?
Well, they probably have they have a reckon. They know the kinds of tools I use, the kinds of questions you would ask a data scientist, but they don't necessarily know what the job description says. And I said, well, the science part of it is trial and error, right? You have a reckon and you try to prove out your reckon or you disprove it, right? That's the science part of data science. And the data part is basically, for years, for decades, companies have been collecting all this data and they've just been storing it away. It lives in spreadsheets, it lives in databases, it lives all over the place. And they realize they can do stuff with it. And now they bring in data scientists to figure out what to do and how to do it.
I love that.
It's kind of a mixture of statistics and just general computer stuff.
Did she like that explanation?
I think so.
Satisfying?
I hope so.
I love it.
I'll let you know if I get the job.
Was she my generation? Do you suppose?
Okay. She was a boomer.
So, truthfully, I think that seems like a really good metaphor. And one thing that I like about
that's not true. I'm taking that back. If we post this, she was practically a millennial.
She was 25 years old.
She must have been 25.
Okay. Because what I'm going to say is that what you were getting close to saying, which I kind of love, and that's where I've recently engaged a data person who came and said, because I'm trying to build a portfolio and just get a couple of freelance clients so that he can tell the story when he graduates with his master's degree of some projects he's done data-driven. And what I love is that I'm asking him to help me tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what you were getting close to, is that it's science, it's statistics, it's if-then statements and hypotheses, and it's numbers and data, and then it's what story can you tell? I mean, that's analytics and metrics. That's what I like about doing comms, is what can we tell from this? What story can we tell from these pieces of information?
Well, there's, lots of people talk about statistics and whatever and damn lies. You've heard those sayings. My job is fun in that here's the data, and sometimes you'll get the kind of person who already knows what they need to hear, what they need to present to their boss. Sometimes it's finding, getting,
Putting the right spin, finding a nice
Right.
spin. Sure.
Putting
Finding the right
spin on
numbers.
it. Sometimes it's playing with something for a couple weeks only to figure out that, well, I don't know that you can even really safely say that.
Oh, yeah, and that's kind of why I respect true data people like you and like the guys I work with at work is that I come from the opposite where it's like, well, let's go ahead and say this. I mean, I'm tempted sometimes to put a spin on it, knowing that sometimes logical fallacies help win arguments, right? And it's the data people who will go, you can't put that fine a point on it. That is not true. And I mean, I love that part of it. But I think, right, there are many ways to tell stories, and the data approach to it is one. You know what they say, Andrew? There are 3 versions of every story. Your version, my version, and what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of,
Absolutely.
and data takes one approach to that, right?
And I love my job because there is so much, for a curious person, there's a lot of opportunities to exercise your curiosity.
To learn more on the job. I love that. I love that about being an actor because every show you were in, you actually had to research the whatever time period, issue, historical figure, whatever was going on there. I know that attorney friends of mine have that experience. Like that's the fun part of their job is researching each topic.
Mm-hmm. Being required to come up to expert level on a certain topic very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I think most excites me about the idea of being an attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to be an attorney, it would be fun because I got to I got to experience so many different situations and scenarios where people expected me to be the smartest person in the room.
And to be able to, honest to God, it is tell the story. To be able to take 50 pages of your documentation and then turn it into a story that is legally relevant. I mean, that seems fascinating. And that's what I like to do when I do freelance writing clients. I take freelance writing clients as well as I get into this mode of like, I can tell your story no matter what it is. I can study fighter pilots, jet stuff. I don't know anything about it, but when I was helping somebody write an article about being a fighter pilot, cool, fun research to do to come up enough. I don't need to be the expert in the room, mind you. But when I'm helping somebody tell their story or write their copy, that's the fun part.
That is fun.
Well, Andrew, we're both very curious people.
It's a couple of dilettantes. We like to know a little about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. And I make no apologies for that. I used to think that was a bad word, but I like being a dilettante. Okay, what do we have today? Did you see anything good on your way to the dollhouse?
Did I see anything good on my... Well,
I like how you ask that every time as though you forget we're going to talk about it.
I do.
It's funny.
I do forget. If our listeners know one thing, they know that Filholm's crazy. If they know another thing, it's that Andrew has a bad memory.
Doesn't seem nice. Yours seems not judgy.
Well,
whatever. Did you see anything good?
I was distracted. I was coming from one job interview, headed into another job interview, and I totally missed 2 different turns. And I had people, but I think I got honked at twice.
Wow, distracted driving on your motorcycle seems real dangerous, Mr. Bridges.
Well, I feel like I wasn't putting myself in danger. I just didn't turn when I was supposed to.
Okay.
Nothing crazy happened.
They honked at you.
They honked. Yeah, okay, you're right. Something crazy happened.
Who knows? So you didn't see anything crazy except that. You were out of it.
I was out of it.
I saw on my actual drive here today, this afternoon, I saw one thing that I've been seeing a lot, which is skateboarders and scooter riders in the street with traffic. They freak me out.
That is scary. I recently had occasion to go downtown, and downtown Denver is littered with those scooters, those electric scooters. And I saw 2 people just drive right out in the middle of an intersection on a green light. Someone else is coming across. They almost died. And it happened to the first person. The second person watched it happen and then did the same thing.
Jesus. Those scooters downtown are so fun to ride, but I felt so vulnerable while I was on them. No helmet, nothing crazy. Oh my God. So it's not just those scooters, though. It's people using electric scooters to commute, like commuter scooters. I see it a lot in my neighborhood and on my way home. It just scares me because and I saw today a kid, he's confident, he's fine. And he did see me coming, but he sort of stopped suddenly and threw himself off his skateboard. And it was a little bit funny. He looked back at his friend. Like, oh God, if you just tilted the wrong way, you're in front of me. And oh God. But the other thing I want to talk to you about, what I've seen on my way to the dollhouse lately, I came out on a rainy morning. Man, we had some bad weather. Weather is the lowest form of discourse, but my God, what
That's
a week.
My favorite thing to talk about. I must be a low form of discourser.
You're just not really very woke. It was such a crazy week of snow and cold and crazy. But so I came out kind of on the day it was all starting in the morning on my way to work to find that all of my garbage had been scattered once. I mean, like a lot of it. all over my back area, and I had to pick
you
it
don't
up
think
right
it was
then.
the storm, just to clarify.
Oh no, the story. No, my point is,
The
in fact,
zombie?
it had barely started raining. It was like cold rain that I was picking up soggy cardboard and crap. That's my point. But no, it had not snowed yet. It was not a storm. No wind had come. No, it was scattered. So that made me just realize I was kind of angry and just like, God, it's gross. I understand I cannot have my garbage out in the alley. I am the only neighbor right now on my block that has the garbage cans out, accessible, because I'm waiting for my fence to be built with the swinging gate. Doesn't matter. So anyway, that became more urgent to me. But I saw that, made me mad. But then Rafiki next door texted me one day last weekend or something and said that she had been to Home Depot and she had bought for me one of the signs that she has, and she bought one for somebody across the alley too that says, "Beware of the dog."
Mm-hmm.
And then did you notice it? That's what I saw on my way home one day.
I didn't notice
it's
it.
right out on my back gate, and she screwed it in with rivets, man. That sign is going nowhere, and she just thinks that's a way to stay safe, is beware of the dog.
She took it upon herself to go out and purchase you a sign and hang it herself without consulting you until
I think
after
she
it was
consulted.
done.
No, I think she consulted and said, "Is that okay?" And of course I said, "Why, thank you. That's wonderful." Did not know that by the next time I came home it was going to be done. I shouldn't be surprised at this point. But what a neighbor, taking care of me.
Between my two interviews, so I took the second interview here so that I wouldn't have to drive here. It was just a scheduling nightmare. But I ran into Rafiki, or she yelled through the door because I left the door open because the studio gets
you
hot.
scared her. Yeah, it does. You scared her, and I need to let her know when you or one of my sons is coming over in the middle of the day. Because she's watching, and she did. She thought I was being robbed.
She is watching. We had a long conversation about cutting trees down and yard work and how a little half day in the yard, moving things around, cutting things down, pruning things. It's good for the soul.
Is that what she said?
That's what I said.
Well, it is.
And she agreed wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And then she it was kind of funny. She she knows like all the cues for like normal things you would say to a 25-year-old. And she's like, "Yep, I'm going to go in, I'm going to grill myself a piece of chicken and pour myself a glass of wine." Except I'm not really a wine person.
She did.
She did. She absolutely did. And it was kind of I don't know. It's like you got a young 25-year-old across the thing. You talk about booze and you talk about women and you talk about yard work.
Oh, funny. Well, the truth is that I think what she was saying is she's saying wine. And sometimes I say that, like, you want to have a glass of wine? And what I mean is I'm going to have a beer. Because I've shared a beer with Rafiki. I think she's a beer drinker like me.
Is she?
I think that maybe a lady just does that knee-jerk response no matter your age. Like, it
Maybe
sounds
it's proper.
ladyish. It is.
Maybe all women are trained to say, "I'd like a glass of wine." And they really mean Mad Dog 2020.
No, but a beer. I prefer beer to wine almost always, even when I'm in Paris, France. I'll still order some nice French or Danish beer. Okay, so yard work, I got to tell you, we lost a week of it, and then there were branches down, and I've got a lot of... I didn't mow last weekend because I rushed home to try to mow, and it was already raining on Sunday. So I messed that up. So now I have long grass, and there was a lot of moisture, and there's some damage. And I lost a week because of weather, of being able to come home after work and do a little bit, like of weeding. Or watering or whatever. So now I feel kind of overwhelmed by it, and I'm realizing, doing all the yard work on my house prevents me from doing all the fun stuff.
Keeping a yard is a pain in the butt.
Right? I'm realizing, I've always realized it, and in the past I've just kind of let it go, and we weren't yard people, but now I kind of like this space, and I want to make it mine, and I'm still in the mode of having things to do. I'm still setting stuff up, making Clay Beach happen, but I'm going, okay, this is interesting. However, the other thing I've found is that it is good for the soul. And I grew up in the country, and I weeded gardens and irrigated and dug ditches and planted trees and raised sheep for much of my early life. Anyway, so I'm a country girl. I grew up in the country, and I grew up working with the earth, and I kind of know that about myself, but I don't consider myself a gardener. And when my kids were young, I just kind of got out of any of the gardening except a few tomato plants here and there. So it's interesting that when I'm working on my yard, it does give me a sense of satisfaction and pride. That garden that I had nothing to do with, the flower garden, now I am pretty devoted to keeping it going and watering it and keeping it weeded because it's so beautiful. And I realize that's like my heritage, my background, all of my aunts, my grandmother. I come from a gardening background. I've just never related to it. But anyway, in sum, after a long day of working in my yard, I do feel like it's good for my soul. I didn't get to go paddleboarding on that day, but I feel okay.
I don't typically think of my mother as a gardener, but she has extensive gardens, and they are well tended and well cared for. And I remember in the summers growing up, just about every evening, there was like a 45-minute to an hour-long ritual of watering all the different things that needed to be watered. And there's something to be said for the routine of it all. It's just a nice way to kind of end your day, to just stand out there with the hose in your hand and water all the flowers.
I just spoke to somebody about that who likes it more than I do. I think you're right, and probably that will become my life. I would rather be throwing pot around the wheel for that hour. I mean, really, to me, that's more relaxing and fun. But so that's a thing, and I'm going to try to lean into it. Also, I'm going to try to get myself in a position where I have less of that, like I need to water certain things by hand. Because I do have some pretty good hose systems set up out here. But I did realize that, Andrew, in the past week. Oh my gosh. What is naturally happening now that I am settling somewhat into the dollhouse? I hope I'm not disappointing you by not getting better faster, everybody. I think I'm going to, I have routines now.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing, right? 6 months ago, I kept going, I don't know what it is. Like, I have Saturday things and Tuesday things right now. I have Thursday things with you normally, and sometimes they get jacked up. But in general, I have a Thursday thing. I have some Thursday things for my health because I'm trying to do some physical therapy and mental health therapy. I am realizing that maybe I'm becoming a person with routine, and I like it.
There's a lot to be said for a good routine.
Funny, because then sometimes when I'm doing things that are out of routine, like this week, I went and saw a show with some friends, a comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of resented it. Like, well, this is not what I normally have on my docket for Wednesday nights. So,
I got a haircut this week, as I do once every 4 weeks. And I had a good conversation about, I wanted to say with my therapist, with the lady who does my hair.
Same.
Right. And we were at this point 3 days away from summer vacation for her, and she's got 2 young kids.
Oof.
And I was trying to ask her, do you like the summer vacation or do you prefer the school year? And she says it doesn't matter. I like them both when they start, and then every now and then, So
yes, queen.
By the time you've been in your routine of being on summer or in your routine of being in the school year, you're ready for a change. So there's a lot to be said for having a routine for 6 months and then shaking things up a little bit.
And one of the things about being a school teacher that I actually liked was we all said there's a beginning, middle, and an end, right? There really is. No matter what goes down this year, we can get summer to recover.
That's an English teacher thing to feel excited about.
Well, okay.
The denouement.
Sure, it's the story progression. I do want to give a shout out to parents, if you don't mind. Actually, I want to introduce a new segment on this podcast with your permission.
Are you going to ask me?
Yes. I would like to introduce last week we talked about my Mama Bear stuff, my own personal manifesto. Mm-hmm. And I, since then, have actually had some conversations with people who surprised me, like not the normal parenting question. I mean, not the normal people from whom I hear parenting questions. And I went, you know what, the good news is you don't have to read my book. You can listen to the upcoming Monday's episode.
Well, you do have to read your book.
I know, and you should. And actually for these people, here's what I'm getting to. My point is, and I also know that right now in May, when you have kids, you can't even listen to a podcast. Anyway, I felt pretty good about that episode and talking about my life's mission. So I would like to avoid doing that every time. But because some of our listeners are parents, and that's maybe why they're tuning in, I would like to introduce the segment of the role model of the week, because my whole deal is that I present us with new role models for parenting. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to introduce a role model of the week.
I got a question for you.
All right.
I know in your book, I think there are 9 role models that you present in the book. Mm-hmm. Does that sound accurate? Mm-hmm. Are you going to present the 9 role models over and over and over again? Or are you going to come up with a new one every single week in the same way that you come up with the first thing you should know about Andrew? I
am going to do some of both is my plan. Mm-hmm. I think I will introduce the key ones in the book. There are also sort of minor characters in the book. Mm-hmm. So there are more than the 9, whatever it is. I don't think that's right. I don't know. And then I suspect, Andrew, that because this is how the life works, that there will be spontaneous throughout the weeks, new ways of looking at parenting that remind, I'm always kind of framing it that way.
Sure. I'm excited for this new segment. Why don't you hit me with the latest?
Well, first, the reason I thought of it right now is because I want to give a shout out to all parents. We are, by the time this releases, it will be June. Congratulations for all of you who survived the month of mayhem. Make no mistake about it. If you are a parent, or even Like, you know what? You were just telling me that Delaney's kind of feeling it. The end of the school year kind of tends to be a frantic time for all of us, even though we may not be in school, right? Here's a funny thing. So the month of May, you have to be aware, is the month of end of school. So final projects and science fairs, and then graduations and confirmations and Mother's Day and like awards ceremony and continuation ceremonies, and also sometimes the school play and a concert and a thing and a thing. Month of mayhem. Sports, summer sports are kicking right up. Oh, it is so overwhelming. I don't know how parents make it through. I just want parents to realize that, like, if you feel exhausted, you are. And yay, it's summer. And I always felt what you talked about with that person is exactly right. Summer is always such a fresh start. And by the end of summer, you are singing, it's the most wonderful time of the year when you're buying school supplies. We go back to routine. So really quickly, the segment today will be the first role model that taught me I needed a new role model. As I pointed out last week, the problem I thought was that Mama Bear, as a metaphor, as a role model for us, to whom we all relate, and it's a good role model for parents of little kids. She hibernates, she goes to sleep. And I started to realize this. I started to look around and go, wow, we're falling asleep on our kids. Kids are getting away with some crazy stuff. I talked to you about that last week. And I was watching I wasn't even watching. I never sit and watch a TV show. I think I was carrying laundry from one room to the other, and a Discovery Channel show was on. And I caught a little bit of it, and it was about the peregrine falcon. And I watched a little clip of it, and this mama peregrine falcon, they're the fastest living things on the planet when they're dive bombing. Do you know that?
I've heard that. Well, I've read that somewhere. I couldn't say where.
Sorry, you already know. Okay, you already know this, Roma. So she is the fastest living thing on Earth. She's anyway, she's flying off. Her little chicks are in the nest. They're showing this footage. And the the mama falcon is flying off, and her little chicks are in the nest, fending for themselves. And she's off on her hunting, going to PTSA meetings, whatever she's doing. And then 2 pelicans fly really too close to the nest for her comfort. And that woman falcon dive bombs out of the air and knocks the pelicans out of the air. Boom, boom. And they fall into the ocean below, like really awkwardly. And then she checks on her babies. They're fine. She flies back off. And I went, that is the parent I want to be. And that was my first new role model. I want to be a parent who watches them from a distance. That's the no part of my thesis. She watches them. She sees everything, but like from a distance with her little eagle eye, her little falcon eye, when there is real and present danger. And only then she swoops in to help them and protecting them. And then the third part is honoring our kids. She will definitely, when the time is right, kick them out of the nest and expect them to fly. That's what she does. So she honors their journey, but she's there to protect them, and she knows it all from like a distance that is safe and not intrusive. So ladies and gentlemen, my first new role model for parents of teenagers.
A round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I will tell you one example of also why that's important, that we know our kids and why it's so hard to be vigilant sometimes, because we want to stick our heads in the sand because what's going on is awful with them.
You do not want to be Mama Emu. You want to be Mama Peregrine Falcon.
I mean, right? Because
ostriches.
Ostriches stick their heads in the sand.
You don't want to be Mama Ostrich.
Because they're awful.
And they got such long necks. It's unseemly.
But you want to, it's so, okay, so I'm going to tell that story, that little bit about it. What I tell people is the time that my friend called me up on a Sunday morning because maybe her daughter wasn't where she was supposed to be on Saturday night. And my friend said, well, it's a really complicated story, and her cell phone died, and, and this and that. I mean, unless my daughter's a really good liar, I think. And I went, oh, well, she's a really good liar.
She's a professional liar. Isn't she a teenager?
Mm-hmm. Right. And then she said, well, my husband tracked her on her phone, and she was in an abandoned parking lot between 2 and 3 in the morning. And I mean, like, what could they have been doing there at 2? What could be open there between 2 and 3 in the morning? You know the joke. Everybody knows the punchline. Say it along with me, listeners. Legs could be open in that parking lot. And that is where I'm saying that parents are not vigilant. We're just pretending. We don't want to face sometimes what is going on with our kids because it's yuck. It's awful and it's scary. So that's the funny anecdote about why it's important to be a mother peregrine falcon. And that concludes this segment of the show. There you have it. What else do you want to talk about, Andrew?
Well, we got a lot to talk about. We've been talking about homelessness for a while now. In fact, we've earned the moniker among all of the major news outlets as the number one anti-homelessness podcast. And
it's not true because in my heart, I want to feed the zombies in my neighborhood
Whatever.
a biscuit, but also I'm going to build a super tight security fence.
But I guess what I mean to say is you got some listener recommendations on homelessness. You want to talk about that, Mrs. Filholm?
I sure do. I got a couple of things. I got from one listener, I got the suggestion to listen to the podcast. I love this podcast. Have you listened to You're Wrong About, Andrew?
I certainly have not, because I'm right about everything.
No.
Just listen back to episode 1. You'll just hear it.
Merlin Mann, our podcast friend, has been our pretend friend has been recommending the show on and on and on. You haven't watched it? It's good. Or listen to it. It's called You're Wrong About. It's a podcast. They are journalists obsessed with the past. Every week they reconsider an event, person, or phenomenon that's been miscast in the public imagination. It's a very cool show, and they're good journalistic writers, so they're just looking at it from every angle. And they did one on May 16th, 2019 called Homelessness. And that's interesting. Current. Yeah, I sent you a link to it, but you don't read our Slack channel.
I do read it.
You sometimes
I was thinking when I asked you to talk about your listener feedback that you would talk about Seattle is Dying.
I'm getting to that next. I wanted to recommend that one first and then the next one.
Okay.
Okay, but I did send you that one.
Sure did, and I watched.
No, I sent you the podcast link.
You sent all of them to me.
And you didn't listen to that one, but then the Seattle thing, what happens with you in Slack is if I get you at the right, you treat Slack like it's a living object. And whatever has happened in the past on Slack may not be relevant. I don't get it.
Well, I have a terrible memory.
I know.
And I choose to engage with Slack on my own terms.
But it's right there.
Just because you put it in there doesn't mean I'm automatically going to listen to it.
No, I've completely come to understand that. Anyway, that was my first recommendation. The second recommendation after a couple of weeks ago when we started talking about the homeless was from my favorite cousin. I have a lot of cousins. I have a big family, and I love all my cousins. For real. And do you know we have a real solid following amongst the Lane cousins?
A shout out to the Lane cousins.
And also some of Stefan cousins from the other side. But the Lane family is coming in hot. Anyway, they live up in the Pacific Northwest. And my favorite cousin, Annette, recommended Seattle is Dying. It's a documentary from a Seattle local news station. And we both... K-O-M-O. We both watched it. And, okay, what do you want to say about that, sir?
I watched the heck out of it. And
you did? The heck? How many times?
Once.
3 for me.
But why? Good Lord.
I don't watch things fully. I keep, 3 for me is 1 for you. I didn't pay attention until later.
I put down what I was doing and I took a break. As a freelancer, one of the things you have to remember to do is to take advantage of breaks because poor people who work at jobby jobs can't do that. They can't just put down their things and watch a movie for an hour.
But you can go walk for 4 miles and get blisters.
I sure can. And I can watch a little news documentary on homelessness.
Yep. All right. Do you want to tell us what it is? Do you want to do a rhetorical précis about what it is, Andrew? Because we promised to do that for our viewers is that we would not talk about things that they don't know what we're talking about without explaining them. Mm-hmm. So we agreed to write or at least talk through a rhetorical précis style.
Yep.
Summary on steroids, rhetorical précis. So let's hear yours. I bet if we I did write one. Did you?
I did not write one. But so
I bet ours are going to be different. So let's hear your take on this story.
Of all the things I got out of my high school English class, which you co-taught with the lady who actually taught me, who's wonderful, by the way.
I think we can say, Mrs. C, we love her.
Shout out Mrs. C. But anyways, one thing that I took away and I use to great effect often is the rhetorical précis. And right now I'm opened up to the Oregon State website where they describe what a rhetorical précis is.
That's a good one. Oregon State has become my favorite. I mean, I think it's a top hit, but it's a good one. It didn't used to be what landed for me when I go and look it up. That's a good one.
It is a good one.
Example.
So a rhetorical précis, for those who don't know, it's a 4-sentence summary, and it's very strict about the format.
It's like writing an abstract for, of your critique of something. It's such a cool thing.
It's handy.
It's handy.
And like I said, I've used it to great effect. So anyways, the first sentence, it says, in a single coherent sentence, give the following: the name of the author, title of the work, and date in parentheses. And then a rhetorically accurate verb such as assert, argue, deny, refute, prove, disprove, explain, etc. And a that clause, containing the major claim. So I would say that in their, I don't know what year this came out, I think it was 2016. In their seminal 2016 work, is not a seminal work, but in their 2016 documentary.
Is it 2016?
That's my guess.
I thought it was this year.
I don't know.
The what?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm
Mrs.
sorry. Okay.
Filholm.
Oh, no, I think it's actually, no, my point is I think it's actually kind of current. Go ahead, carry on. Oh, no, you're right.
Nice.
No.
No?
No, I think this one is new. I think you looked up a thing. This is a 3-part series. It doesn't matter. I think this one is current. I'll look it up. Go ahead.
Okay. So in their 2016 work, Seattle is Dying, Como, the news channel in Seattle, argues that there are 2 different types of homelessness, the homelessness you don't see and the homelessness on the streets. And that homelessness you see on the streets is, in fact, related almost 100% to heroin addiction, drug addiction of some kind, specifically heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next sentence, in a single coherent sentence, give an explanation of how the author develops and supports the major claim. So I would say that
The rhetorical devices. So what makes up the argument?
Como uses a strict and unforgiving tone.
Good.
Let's see. I'm trying to think about. Hold on. I gotta read this a little bit more.
Well, it's a video, so they use videos.
Yeah, but the tone of the video, it's unforgiving.
Yeah, no. But I'm just like right now, what you're doing in your précis is saying what methods do they use to tell it. The tone is part of it.
Mm-hmm. I think when I watch a homeless thing or hear a homeless thing in general, people always dance around it, and they always try to put it in soft, airy-fairy kind of language. And they never really assign blame. And this work does not do that. This work assigns blame. They say that the city council is garbage. And they say that...
Okay, wait, you do your précis. We're going to talk about it in a minute.
All right, so...
Well, I mean, maybe you're commenting. Maybe you are just saying. That's part of it. That's part of the technique is criticizing the city council. But what they use to tell the story is video interviews.
They use video interviews, and they pick out some of the worst cases or people you could put on screen to talk about this stuff, to show the idiocy, the lunacy of this homelessness problem, right? It really seems like a crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sentence number 3. In a single coherent sentence, give a statement of the author's purpose followed by an in order to phrase. So they're putting together this documentary in order to show that homelessness is not it's not just something that floats out there and is what it is. There's no solution. There is indeed a solution. And ultimately, they find that this problem is caused by drugs, and it can be solved by, first of all, arresting the people who are homeless, and while they're in prison or in jail, whatever they're in, giving them the option and kind of making the option unbelievably attractive. An option they cannot refuse to take part in these medicine-assisted treatment programs, which is basically like methadone treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And maintenance treatment.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
4th sentence.
4th sentence, give a description of the intended audience. It's meant for the Seattle population specifically, but it has an audience. I mean, it found an audience here in Colorado. But it's people watching the news, the evening news. That's who they made this video for.
Totally. All right, good. I'm going to read you mine. We
Yes,
are
please.
not as far afield as I thought, and that makes me so happy, Andrew. I'm not kidding. I thought you were going to have a different response. I'm kind of pleased, and then we'll talk about it. And it is interesting. I'm enlightened. I'm hopeful. It is going to be interesting. Seattle is Dying is a documentary-style piece of propaganda produced in 2019 by news station Como, which claims that Seattle's terrible homeless problem is, in fact, a drug problem being made worse by the action and inaction of city officials. The point is driven home via anonymous interviews with police, on-camera interviews with citizens, shopkeepers, and addicts, high-quality video of homeless camps and people strung out on the streets, and emotive language designed to incite outrage and a sense of urgency. The purpose of the piece is to condemn Seattle City Council for not seeking real solutions to the problem, namely methadone clinics, an empowered police force, and maintenance treatment, in order to incite communal outrage that will lead to change. The audience for this piece is not only Seattle residents who are informed, emotional, and opinionated about the issue, but also a broad, uninformed, popular audience of internet video watchers prone to hysteria and vulnerable to arguments fueled by pathos and fallacy.
So which part did you think we would not be in agreement on?
I was worried that you hadn't caught how manipulative the tone was. How it's not for...
No, I caught it.
I know you did. That's my point. I'm so thrilled. I of course you did, Andrew. You're smart.
The message I got from this video, and the reason they were talking to so many cops, the reason that the police featured so heavily in it is because they're arguing in this film that the solution is actually to get put all these people in prison or jail, so take them out of the situation and give them the opportunity while they're out of the situation to get clean.
That video made the interesting case to me of like, these people are to some degree choosing this. They're choosing it because they are so addicted to drugs that they can't make a better choice, right? They don't want a home. The people who are down and out on their luck, and we've talked about this a little bit, are actually looking for work, they are going to, as you said in your rhetorical bracing, they are going to shelters and things like that and temporary. Those are the homeless for whom we provide them homes and they'll be better. Drug addicts, these guys, the point of the video is they wouldn't do that. That's not a program that's viable for them. So right, it's that video was very much, it showed so much like the lack of agency for the police, and that was the condemnation of the city council, is you have decriminalized this problem.
Right.
And
Something
in fact, if you criminalize it, it will result in, you got to get them off the streets into a safe place where they have no choices, and then get them into treatment so they can survive their lives. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. And they used Providence, Rhode Island as the poster child for this solution working. And they had 3 people that partook in this MAT program, medical assisted treatment.
Right, medical assisted treatment. That's right. Yep.
And all 3 of these people said the same thing, which is that no. I was actually, now looking back, I was really grateful the last time I got arrested because they saved me. If I had been out on the streets, I would have done more heroin. I would have killed myself. They pulled me out of the situation and gave me the opportunity to get better in this MAT treatment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you thought that, so my point about the propaganda was I was just making sure that we understood that we were coming at it from like, you started to say it in your rhetorical précis, the language is so heavy-handed and makes so many assumptions about what's good and bad in the world that it's just funny to me that from a news outlet, if that was an independent video, you know what I mean? Somebody out doing a do-gooder video. Well, but the fact that it doesn't matter. I understand that's how the world works.
You know better than anyone else. You taught us lessons. The news is not unbiased.
No, I know. But it just always surprises me when something comes out with that heavy a hand. I happen to be I think it's a good piece of rhetoric. I think it's a persuasive argument, don't you?
It is a persuasive argument. And it made me think about
leans so heavily. I just wish it weren't quite so hysterical.
Well, the evening news,
I know,
it's geared toward a specific audience, and it's designed not for careful, measured consideration of an issue. It's designed to get eyeballs, right?
Yeah, and it's people prone to hysteria and vulnerable to arguments fueled by pathos and fallacy, like I said in my
sure
thing.
Is.
That's the bummer of it, but so erase, whatever, not erase it. We forgive it because sometimes, like I was saying, it's fun to tell the most dramatic story with your data.
Sure.
This is an example of that. And like I said, kind of respect from a communications point of view. This is a successful piece of persuasive video. So good on you. It just made me a little bit uncomfortable in terms of like, it seems a little bit hysterical.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. But it made me think. So I came out and I think I said how I voted in the Denver elections, particularly that I voted to eliminate the camping ban, and also... I honestly, at this point, don't remember whether or not I voted to decriminalize
you voted
mushrooms.
not. Yes, you voted to eliminate. Yes, correct.
Okay. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about that in the context of this documentary, which says that heroin addiction is the problem. And in the context of the camping ban, I still don't feel like eliminating the camping ban is a bad thing, because there are a million other things that you can arrest these people for that are not camping, right? If they're strung out in the middle of the street, camping is the least of your worries. That's like getting Al Capone on tax evasion.
It is, and that's the thing. The video does a very good job. That documentary does a good job of, that tweaker. What's his name? Tyler?
I don't remember.
Holy, you know what I'm talking about though?
Yeah.
That guy who literally, in his profound tweaker, I used to be I should have been a contributing member of society because I'm so smart, but I became a criminal kind of way, going, I literally survived the system. As you said, they pick the most inflammatory people to interview, but that's a guy going, they talk about it, they give very good data evidence of these people who are criminalized and they just let them go. They don't have the means to prosecute
that was
them.
interesting to me.
Wasn't it?
It was,
And police
So
feeling so like we can't even do our jobs.
they feel impotent. So people blame the police. They say, "Why don't you do your jobs?" The police blame the kind of district attorney in the court system for not prosecuting. The police say, when there's a problem, we arrest these people, we bring them in, and then we find them back out on the streets in the next day because they've been their sentence has been reduced to time served.
There was a shopkeeper saying we get them on loitering or something, and then they let them go. They come right back in, and we go, "You got to get out of here." And they said, "What are you gonna do? Call the police?" They just let me go. So that was. And the truth is, when I said that it was a propaganda piece, it was a propaganda piece on behalf of the. I wanted to dig deeper. Like, did they do this on behalf of the police association? Doesn't matter. Those are guys saying with real, good cops saying, "I can't do my job." You've told me this. I mean, boy,
I can't imagine what's more frustrating to a police officer when you risk your life and body to keep the other people around you safe, only to find that the threat's been put back into the system because someone else didn't care to prosecute.
Exactly right. So it is a compelling argument. And shout out to one of my adopted hometowns, Providence, Rhode Island, for getting it right. I love that. So and then you texted me or slacked me and said methadone clinics, cool. Why don't we have them in Denver? And we do.
Well, so I know about methadone clinics. The only place I've ever heard that term before is in the context of Anthony Bourdain. Not an excellent example of the success of a methadone clinic.
Oh, interesting.
But I suppose it was actually a success because had he not had that force in his life, there's a good chance he never would have lived as long as he did. But the idea here is that if you use a drug like methadone or Suboxone, I think is another one of the drugs, it can ease the pain of getting off of heroin.
Yeah.
While inhibiting the euphoric effects of using heroin. So if you're taking methadone, not only are you not going through those terrible withdrawals, or maybe to a lesser degree, but you're also like the effect of heroin, the euphoria that you have from using it is gone. So if you can commit to taking this medicine every day, suddenly it becomes a lot easier to say no to heroin because it's not giving you what you used it for originally.
Right. I know.
And I think Rhode Island was kind of the vanguard in making methadone treatment available in prisons. I don't know if it's available elsewhere. I don't know. I still kind of think this documentary came out in 2016, but I'll have to look at it. Maybe things have changed since then. Maybe if you're looking for treatment in prison, you can find it now where you couldn't before. I have no idea. I think the key here is it happening in jail and prison.
Because I think you're right. Yep,
you can't walk up to the tweaker in your alley and say, "Hey, I've got a solution for your addiction.
Here's a wafer. Would you please take this and you'll feel much better?" Yeah, no.
They're not feeling it. But if you put someone in a situation where they can either go through withdrawal or they can have this drug that will help with withdrawals, it becomes a non-choice in prison. Like why wouldn't you go through the MAT treatment?
And you may, you'll have lots of incentives and you'll have a lot of decentives to not perform well in prison and do the stuff you're supposed to do. Yeah, you're right. That is. And so that's the thing where you can understand it coming from the point of view of supporting the police is if we can't get them off the streets, A, everybody in that society feels like it's falling apart. B, we can't get them to the places where they will get help. There's no other way to do it.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes in order to help these people, you have to take away their choices.
Boy, that is not unlike being a parent of a teenager. I don't understand it, and I do get kind of compassion overload when I try to think about big, complicated societal problems. You said I was a do-gooder and I have a big, full heart. I didn't really listen to your opening this week, but I think you said something about that. But what I do understand is that it is not unlike teenagers who need boundaries. And they're pushing against every boundary because boundaries aren't fun. But without the boundaries and a shape, boy, we were talking earlier about how maybe I'm getting more scheduled in my life. Feels kind of good. You know what I mean? Human beings do like to be responsible and I think held accountable. I think that's what we crave. And sometimes I don't know anything about what it's like to live on the streets and choose to be an addict, but that's an interesting part of that film is that just like they're going, no, 100% of the people doing these crimes and living on the street and making it miserable in our city are A, drug addicted and B, homeless.
The one thing that I meant to mention and I forgot to mention is that near my house, my permanent address,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a park, and I would walk around it, maybe once or twice every day. And for a long time, there was this light blue Toyota 4Runner, and there was a guy living in there. Like I walked around this park often enough to know that this guy was living in his car by the park. And this is a kind of homelessness. It's not the 16th Street Mall yelling at you for change.
Right.
It's not the ripping your shirt off and throwing a hissy fit in the middle of the street. It's the quiet homelessness that you don't see. It's the people who are out of work and down on their luck. And there's still not a great solution for that. But the homelessness problem, in most situations, we're not talking about that guy. We're not talking about the people who aren't causing problems. We're talking about the clear and present issue right there in the street that's rending his or her garments.
Yeah, that's right. And that video makes that very clear. And the truth is, we're not talking about it, but we do need to be talking about it. And I think that's kind of how we were addressing it last week, is there are programs out there that provide housing, provide temporary. I mean, those are all probably good and viable programs. Coalition for the Homeless, we talked about it last week. I looked up some more. That version of homeless, right? That's not the aggressive. That's not what we talk about when we say the city has a homeless problem, because those people are quietly living in their cars or shacking up somewhere and trying to find a job and getting day labor and, trying to get themselves. The guy playing the keys on the 16th Street Mall that you met.
He was a total drug addict.
Okay.
That's a different story.
All right. That was one of those. I was just about to say, and then maybe, Anyway, yeah, no, that's a different problem.
He also just got out of jail, if you recall.
Yes, I know. But I know. That's right. So that I did appreciate that video, that it did take a very hard stance and said, listen, we are actually, you city council, you people making our police ineffective, you are absolutely seeing this problem wrong. You're naming it the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. It's a drug problem, and it's a drug problem. We are looking the other way because live and let live. I mean, again, I had that junkie in my alley, and I felt uncomfortable about it. And 2 police vehicles came, and they didn't move her. And I suspect that's because they couldn't. She wasn't technically on my property. What are they going to do? And I'm going, well, she shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting. I don't know. Okay, well, what do you make of it, Andrew? Have we solved any problems? Nope.
Well, I got a timing question for you, Mrs. Filholm.
Uh-huh.
I know that we've spoken longer than we should about homelessness.
Yeah.
And I know that we've spoken longer than... Well, don't you dare cut in. This is all pure gold.
Everything in the show was in the show.
But do you want to check your phone and talk to me about what you see in your recent messages?
Mm-hmm. I sure do. One moment.
Here's the thing, Mrs. Filholm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that time was getting on because I didn't have a watch.
Really?
You're
sure looking for a watch.
I am looking for a watch.
It's one of your projects.
Where in the world, if I wanted a watch, where could I go and find one?
I would like to recommend flaneurwatches.com.
You would?
I would. Flaneur is an independently owned and operated watch dealer based in Denver, Colorado. Specializing in rare and vintage mechanical watches, Flaneur prides itself in being the absolute best option to buy, sell, and trade watches. You will not find higher cash offers, lower consignment fees, or better customer service anywhere. We promise to give you the time and care that your watch deserves every time. Trust us with your watch buying and selling process, and we will treat you as family. Visit flaneurwatches.com today to find out more. You want to spell that website for me, Andrew?
F is in flower, L is in Larry, A is in Andrew, N is in Andrew, E is in elephant, emu. Ooh, emu is a good one. That came up earlier. Mm-hmm. E is in elk. U is in Ursa Major. R is in Ralph. Watches. WATCHES. Watches, normal spelling. FlaneurWatches.com.
I think that's fantastic. They're an awesome sponsor, and we are so grateful. They believe in our podcast. I always think it's funny in that ad read that they will treat you as family, because sometimes that isn't a positive thing. Sometimes we don't treat our family the best of all the people, Andrew. That's not what they mean.
I got to tell you, the people over at Flaneur Watches, they treat you as if you wish, as you'd like your family
you chose. I understand. Family you chose.
Well,
yes, right.
I will tell you, I've mentioned, there's a watch journey that every person is either on and they know it, or they're on and they have yet to realize it. I'm looking for a real grown-up watch, and I do want to talk about it. I will tell you that a year ago, I had a watch in mind. I had my eye on it, and I let my girlfriend know about it because she was looking for a gift to get me, and she bought me an extremely nice.
She did?
Yeah, well, yeah.
A nice watch?
Absolutely. It was a Seiko automatic watch. It's kind of there are different levels of Seiko, and it's the Seiko 5, so it's kind of the least fancy, but it's the one of the cheapest automatic watches you can buy. And I was super excited about this watch because I'd never had a mechanical watch, and I'm an engineering nerd, so I really appreciate the idea of something that is powered by your movement.
Mm-hmm.
And this watch was.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And I wore it for a year, and now I'm in a position where this watch that probably cost, I don't know, $150, maybe $200, needs a $300 service.
Oh, no.
I done goofed on the watch front because I didn't consult someone like Flaneur.
Okay, well, that's great. Flaneur is saving you from the agony of your next watch person. I'm so glad.
Well, here's what I'm about to tell you is I recently saw an advertisement. Flaneur, they specialize in the fancy stuff, but they don't mind helping you out with your peasant needs as well.
Okay.
And I got peasant needs because I'm poor.
You're entry level. It's not peasant. You're entry level.
I'm all of those things. I'm poor and entry level.
You're newbie.
And I saw that Timex came out with a new watch recently. It's a reissue of their 1970s first quartz watch, first battery-powered watch. It's super cool looking. And the watch community they love to collect things. Mm-hmm. So the second this watch was announced, it sold out.
Oh, it did?
And Flaneur, little do you know, is adept at finding rare and hard to find watches.
Is it the Q Timex?
It is the Q.
Nice.
Have you seen it?
I'm looking at it right now.
I'm a little nervous about mentioning it on this podcast because that's going to create millions of other people competing for the same watch that I'm looking for.
Oh, funny. Okay, so Flaneur is out there looking for one for you?
Flaneur is out there looking for one for me, and they are on the case. And that's the kind of
cool.
It's the kind of service you get when you work with a premium.
Is it red, white, and blue like America?
I don't know about white, but it is red and blue.
Okay. I can't wait to hear if you get that watch.
So
they're on the case.
They are on the case. And hopefully in these next couple weeks, I have no idea how long it's going to take to get this because it really is sold out worldwide.
Wow. This is like a Cabbage Patch Doll, Tickle Me Elmo situation for a grown-up.
What is that even? Oh yeah, because those were sold out too, right? You've got a parent
black market. I got to Tickle Me Elmo.
You're a
I'll
parent
meet you in the parking lot
with a screaming kid, and all they want is Tickle Me Elmo, and they've been sold out for months.
And there was only one doll left in the store, and I reached for her, and as I rained down blows upon the other guy, that's why Festivus was invented. It's actually a reference to sort of the Cabbage Patch Doll frenzy. Correct. Okay, so you're in that for grown-ups. Thank you, Flaneur Watches, for your sponsorship of our program and for helping Andrew. I can't wait to follow this journey.
I can't either. I'm excited.
At any moment, you might have a hot watch transaction going on. You're gonna lose sleep over this. That could happen at any time of day or night, Andrew. That's an international quest. You better not turn off your notifications on
I got to tell you,
Mrs.
Filholm,
what?
I can sleep at night because I know that Flaneur Watches is on the case.
Oh, that's nice. That's true. They're handling it for you. They're brokering the deal.
Sure are.
Thank you, Flaneur. Do you want to talk about the fact that we have a sponsorship page live on our website right now?
We do have a sponsorship page.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you, dear sweet listener, have noticed, but we've sold some ads on this here podcast, and we do a hell of a job selling those companies. So if you, dear sweet listener, are in a position where you'd like to advertise something, perhaps it's your business, perhaps it's your name, perhaps it's the fact that you made a bomb-ass turkey last Thanksgiving. We don't care.
Really good point. You could use, especially the one-off sponsorship package. You know what I mean? We have the one. You could be a friend of the show for just one spot. You could propose to your girlfriend on our show.
It's kind of like the Jumbotron at the baseball game.
We will literally say almost anything you ask us to say. We'll sign a contract, but we will do your ad read within reason. For a little bit of money. That's a good point, Andrew. It could be a public message system that lives in perpetuity. That I wish someone would propose to their girlfriend on this show.
Well, I don't know. Mrs. Filholm,
that seems like a cool thing to use it for, because then it would live there forever.
It sure would, in perpetuity.
Or announce something big.
We would be the show where couples come together and stick forever.
I mean, I'm just saying. That's a silly thought I just had, but the truth is we have sponsorship levels, and we'll read your ad, and what Andrew is saying is true, is that we will do such a good job of it because we love our sponsors. Thank you.
We love our sponsors, and it turns out that the people who listen to this show and the people who advertise on this show, like there's a filtering process. If you, dear sweet listener, know about the sales funnel, you know that there are a lot of prospects that turn into a few leads that turn into a customer, right? We're talking about a reduction. We're talking about a. What am I trying to say? Why am I
don't know.
I'm having
it's
so much
real weird.
So much trouble with numbers, and I'm having a seizure. Is what I'm having. Anyways, so the funnel is very large. People in the world, and then you've got like the super qualified, good-looking people. Those are our listeners, right? And then you go one step further, and the best of the best of the best. Those are the sponsors.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So it's almost inevitable if you're the best of the best, and you want to give us a little bit of money.
You could wish, if you knew that your friend was a really good, a devoted listener of this show, and we have some of those, you could wish them a happy birthday for that one spot. I'm really lowballing it. We also, please become a sustaining partner, and we'll read your stuff every single week. And I just want to point people to that website, halfmyage.show, the sponsorship page. It's pretty cool. One bonus thing that I don't think the world... I did put out on social media, but nobody watches that. There's a cool picture of us paddleboarding. It tells you about our show. It gives you our little bios. I had a young friend, hey Cameron, help me edit that because I had done some bad, just sloppy, had some Oxford commas out of place. So she helped me with that. I think it's a pretty good page, sponsorship page. Check it out, listeners. Yeah. Invest in our quest to be the number one intergenerational conversation on the intrawebs.
If you're hearing us talk right now, just imagine how many other millions of people are in your exact situation listening to this podcast. What better way to get your message out?
And also download it and share it. And I would like to say that our tagline on the sponsorship page is pretty good. Bridging the intergenerational communication gap, one goofy episode at a time. That's how we do it.
I got to tell you, Mrs. Filholm, after all that self-promotion, I feel icky.
You do? I don't like it either.
Do you have anything else to talk about this week? What do you got?
I feel like our Slack channel had something, didn't it? Apple keyboards. Holy cow. We got also feedback from my cousin Jessica, who sent me that article about Apple keyboard. Okay, tell me. I don't even want to write a rhetorical précis about this. Do you want to talk about it or not?
I'll tell you about it.
Good.
I'll tell you what's going on. So Apple did a little quiet release of their MacBook Pro line. I think it happened a week ago as I'm recording this. It'll be 2 weeks ago when you hear this. And basically, they got all the current processors in them, but kind of the big announcement that people are picking up in the news is that they've made some kind of material. And when I say material, I mean actual physical materials like plastic, metal, nylon, that kind of stuff, like materials change in their keyboard design. People are concerned. I'm not going to say the problem's solved. People don't know yet. These computers aren't out in the wild yet. But people are concerned that their material change is not a material change, meaning it may not make a difference. So
yeah, I read that. It seemed a little bit funny. We're not promising this. We've made a change in the technology, but we're not 100% promising that this is a real and material and paradigm shift level change in our keyboard.
I think we're talking about the exact same structural design with a different polymer.
Yeah, different membrane under that butterfly.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a good time to buy a MacBook Pro yet, but rest assured, dear listener, we will keep you informed because that's what we do here.
There was some mention about there's going to be a fix-it program.
Oh yeah, that actually is important. And so previously their keyboard replacement program covered, I think it was 2016 and 2017 Macs, and Mrs. Filholm and I were out of luck because we had just bought our computers, and they've actually extended the program to incorporate our computers. If you have this model keyboard, which is garbage, and you are having issues, you can take it in for a free replacement.
And give your computer away for 6 weeks and see you later. It's still the same situation, right? They have not bought into my idea of the Patagonia-style truck that goes from city to city and in the town square holds an event where everybody comes running in here's my piece of shit keyboard computer, here it is, and then they give you a free new one that has all the problems fixed. That's the only solution that's going to make me happy. I don't think they're doing that. I don't think they've heard me.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. But I know that you personally had some serious issues and you were at your wit's end. If you can reproduce those issues in store, they will fix your problem.
Right then and there?
Over the course. Well, they said they've sped up turnaround times on these repairs. I don't know if they're while you wait fast.
If I can replicate it, only if I can replicate. How about just fix it? Because I'm telling you, sometimes it does that, and not always it does that.
Mrs. Filholm, I'm not Apple. Don't yell at me.
I won't yell at you. All right, so that's the keyboard stuff. Whatever. What else do we have? Anything good?
Let's see. Apple Keyboard, Seattle is dying.
I'm building a
Sponsor
fence.
rates, Sponsorship opportunities. And
Summer is a coming.
Summer is a coming. Around the mountain when she comes. Toot, toot.
And we can go paddleboarding some more.
We sure can.
You want to go this weekend?
Possibly. We got a long weekend.
I know. I would see it's so past. We're not evergreen at all. Maybe Monday.
Game on. Right. I'm game.
All right. Is that it? Are we good?
We could be good.
I feel like we brought some ruckus.
Mrs. Filholm, I know we brought some ruckus. And I know every single listener has been waiting for this Apple news. They're like,
I know. Please talk more about your damn computers.
I tolerate that dull homelessness conversation, that dull parenting teenagers conversation in order to get those tidbits about Apple keyboards.
That dull conversation about how you see the world and hope. Oh, okay. I do want to mention one thing. Sorry, back up. I do want to mention this. Because again, this is a thing in Slack that I put in here like 2 weeks ago after we landed our first sponsor, Flaneur Watch is
FlaneurWatches.com.
And I talked all about the swatch that I admired for 2 weeks. And then I sent you a picture. Do you want me to send it to you again? Because it's way up there in our little thread. You can make your own swatch.
I did see that.
You shouldn't go to that website. You should go to FlaneurWatches.com. But that's interesting. And then I also sent you a picture of Babyfoot, an ad for Babyfoot. In fact, right now, if you go on to babyfoot.com, Babyfoot.
There's a banner ad and it says, yes.
It's for men too.
Yes is all caps. Men want soft feet too.
So there you have it, Andrew.
I can't imagine that this is like the pink tax, but in reverse, right? What do you bet that the men's foot peel is like 25% more expensive than the ladies' foot peel?
I don't think it's a different product.
I don't think it should be a different product.
It's not a different product.
But this one is marketed towards men.
No, it's the same product, Andrew. That's just their website. That's they're diversifying their portfolio. They're trying to reach out to a different same product. You can buy it for the same amount of money. But look at that guy there. He's got like the stubble and the Macklemore haircut. He's so hip and cute. Don't you want to be him with your soft feet?
I am him.
But you never
with
done
blisters.
It. I know. I just thought when I went one time recently to grab Babyfoot for our show notes, I could not. But actually, he kind of looks like you. He looks like your younger brother a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? That you could be modeling for Babyfoot. Oh, that would be my dream come true.
Well, if I can't model for Babyfoot, perhaps I can voice talent on this podcast. Dear Babyfoot representatives, I know you're out there. Just give us a holler and send us some money, and we will be your biggest podcast advocates.
All day long. We're recording. This is a Friday instead of a Thursday, which is our usual recording day. What do you got tonight? Anything good? Any big weekend Friday night plans, Andrew?
I was so concerned about my 2 little job interviews today. I've neglected to make any evening plans.
That's nice.
It sure is.
I'm finna work on my yard.
Finna?
I guess.
What are you? 14 years old, young
man?
man?
I'm finna dipset, Andrew. We brought the ruckus. I'm bouncing. Got some yard work. Bye, Andrew.